anybody who just started their business, thing you should be trying to do is maximize the amount that you charge for your service.
Price is an objective part of your business. The other option is you can charge less, but you're just not going to make money and you're not going to get out of the valley of despair.
If you can raise your prices, it's good for you, it's good for your employees, and it really is good for the customer. These guys who are calling around and getting prices and figuring out where to price their services, they should go find the most expensive plumber in their market, figure out what they're charging, and charge more. There is no limit. Like, the more value you provide, the more you can charge. What can I do to maximize my average ticket in my business? How can I maximize that opportunity so that I make as much money on that first call as I possibly can? And the solution is, what's up, Joel?
Hey, Jared, how you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing good. It's been a long time.
Dude, yeah, it has been.
Yeah, I mean, our listeners don't know it, but we secretly record 2 of these a week.
We secretly got ahead, and we missed, we missed a whole week?
Yeah, because you were in Fairbanks.
I was back in Alaska checking on the biz.
Yeah, you should walk us through that, how that experience went, checking on the biz.
Every time I go back, I'm like, man, I don't even need to come back here.
Really? Was it the same this time too?
Yeah, and I mean, like I gave, and I've probably said this before, but yes, we're probably going to do $6 million in revenue this year. Like, we're on track to hit that. Okay. Sounds like a business that has a lot going on. The reality is, if you came to my shop, you would be severely disappointed, right? Because you'd be expecting one thing and then we wouldn't deliver on that thing, because we have just a small shop, and it's a small business. There's only 12, 13 employees, right?
Right. So
it's a small business, but it's a small business that's capable of generating a good amount of cash, right? So yeah, so I gave, and that's kind of why I go up, and every time I'm like, I don't even need to come back here.
Yeah, sure.
It's because, like, I go to the shop, and the only person really in the shop, he's got an office. It's my general manager.
Yeah, and you talk to him.
And I talk
regularly.
to him regularly. We'd meet once a week. We have our meeting, see how things are going. And then all the guys, like, most of them don't even show up to the shop. They just go to their jobs first thing in the morning. So they're gone all day doing their jobs. Both CSRs work from home. They both have children, so they both just answer the phone from their home. And it works just fine. And so you go to the shop, and it's like, there's nothing going on, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I spend most of my time there just doing the work that I would do here.
Yeah, sure.
Just working on things that I would normally be working on, which isn't the plumbing business.
Yeah.
The only cool part about going back is I get to talk to, like, we bring our guys in on Monday mornings. We have a quick Monday morning meeting. I missed that because I flew in Monday mid-afternoon. But then Thursday mornings, we have a training. This training we actually skipped. We shortened it to like 15, 20 minutes because we were so busy. We needed to get some jobs done. We were getting behind.
Yeah.
And so, but that part's cool. It's cool just to say hi to everybody, say what's up. That's about it.
Were they happy to see you, technicians?
Honestly, I feel like they could care less.
Sure.
I took everybody out for beer and pizza one night, and just to catch up with everybody, see how they're doing, kind of gauge the atmosphere, the culture, the attitudes.
Vibe.
Yeah. And it's the same thing every time I go up. It's always the same. It's so weird to me still to this day how it just runs, just keeps going, right? We built this thing we built a thing with a system, right? So the business has a way of doing business is basically what it is. And everybody in the business knows the way of doing business.
Sure.
And so everybody does the way. And as long as everybody's doing the way, it just runs. And if somebody gets out of line or steps off the path of the way, right? My general manager goes, nope, nope, nope. This is the way. And the business runs. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. Fairly uneventful.
Is there, because I know you've had some some new technicians come in. Is there because I know you also have the technicians that you've had there the whole time.
Yeah.
Is there some technicians who don't necessarily even know who you are? Like when you get a new guy now, do they even know that Jared Williams is a thing, or they just show up and it's like
they know I'm a thing because when they come in, we run them through an onboarding process.
Yeah, and you're in that, and I'm like, this is who I am, and all this
I'm in the
stuff.
videos. We're talking about the company, how it started, what our mission and vision are, all that stuff. but they've never met me. So like when I go, like I went up and I met one of the new guys this time. Okay, man, how you doing? Talked to him for a little bit. Super cool dude. Most of them are.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
Gotcha.
Piece of cake.
Yeah.
Everybody's just out working.
Yeah.
They just show up and go to work. And they show up, they keep showing up because we pay them more. We give them better benefits. And they have more freedom.
Yeah.
We're working for us than anybody else.
That's interesting because that's sort of a mirroring of your personal values where you're somebody who likes to make money, but you also value freedom. So it's interesting to see how sort of those values trickle down into what your guys experience to a certain degree in their workflow.
Yeah. When I sought out to build the company, I always wanted to provide a good place to work for my employees.
Right.
And so naturally I go, okay, well, what do I want in a good place to work? What would that look like to me? And then I provided that for my employees. So some guys don't like it. That's fine. They don't have to work there. Sure. Some guys are like me and they like it. And so they end up working there a long time. And I think that's a ticket.
Yeah.
And it's really like the culture we have, cultivated, and the way we pay our guys, the way we treat our guys, it really cultivates, like the high performers.
Sure.
So, and I think it's important when you're setting up your business, you don't want to cultivate a culture that attracts the paycheck chasers,
right,
or the guys who just want to show up and do just enough, right? If you can attract A players, then your business is going to be easier to run. So paying them more, you're going to attract all of them. Like everybody wants to get paid more, but specifically like A players, they care more about making more money than they do about even like, some of the other stuff in your company.
Sure.
So like for me, when I was working, I had a family and I was trading my time for money, and I wanted to maximize that as much as possible.
Right.
Even if I had to put up with some crap to maximize that, I was willing to do that because I wanted more money. Right. And then the other thing is like when you come in and you build the culture of, hey, here you get paid more, here you have more freedom to do things your way. That attracts A players.
Right.
And you have, you're supported and you have all these extra benefits. Then you can take those employees and you can hold them accountable. So you can say, hey, here's the metrics we need you to hit. And then we're going to measure you based on these metrics. And like we pull our guys in every quarter and we just show them the data. Like, here's how you're doing. Here's where you improved. Here's where you need improvement, right? We're always striving to get better at this company. That will naturally, like paycheck chasers hate that.
Sure, because then they have to confront their weaknesses.
They're just trying to show up and get a paycheck and go home, right? They don't care if the data says, their conversion rate is low, or they're not giving enough options or whatever, right? The A players are like, oh, I can do better, because if they do better, they make more money.
Right.
The paycheck chasers, they don't really care.
Right.
So naturally, they don't like being held accountable, and so they end up leaving, which is cool. So we've kind of been able to, promote a culture of like all my guys work hard. Some of them sell more than others. Some of them get more 5-star reviews than others. Some of them, are easier people to deal with than others. But all of them are cool dudes. All of them work hard. All of them make us a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's cool.
On one of our recent coaching sessions, you were talking about the evaluations for your guys, but I thought it was cool because then you also implemented like a leadership evaluation, which I think was a very cool thing to do. Yeah. You should walk us through what that looks like and what your thought is behind having an evaluation for, well, one for guys, which we sort of already talked about, but then also for leadership as well.
Yeah. The whole time I've built the company, it's really been like a top-down approach. So it's been like, okay, I have an idea and I have a way that I want this company to run. And so I'm going to structure it this way. And then, general manager and then technician, and CSRs, you guys, this is how we're doing it. Right. And since then, we kind of built the company and then we went through and made changes. Like once we got it up and running, it was like, okay, this thing runs, but now let's make it run even better. Let's optimize this as much as we can. And so we would go in and we would just, it's basically like looking at data and then making informed decisions based on the data.
Right.
So after we'd been up and running for a year and a half on service site, and we had really good data, right? And so we started going in and going, okay, what is the data telling us? Over time, what is it saying that we can do better? And we would look at those things and say, okay, we need to make this change. We need to do more training on this or whatever, right? To try to optimize the business. Dude, I don't remember where I was going with this.
We're talking
the thing. It's top-down approach.
Yep.
We made all those decisions top-down, right?
And by top-down, you mean that you were just like, I lead this decision. Here's what it is. Now go forth and execute.
It was really like me and the general manager looking at data and going, okay, what does this mean? And what do we think we should do about it? And then we would go implement.
Sure. And by implement, you'd be like, hey guys, this is how we're going to do stuff. Technicians, CSRs, go do it.
Yep. Here's some changes we're making. Here's why. Go do it. Right. So, and lately we've been realizing like for a lot, sometimes you just have to do that.
Yeah.
Like if it's a no-brainer thing where it's like, this has to get done or else we're going to die, right?
Or if it's like, hey, we need to raise prices. You're not going to be like, let's get buy-in on price raising. Like,
no, I'm not going to go to the technicians for that.
Yeah.
But lately for a lot of this stuff, we've been going, okay, how, like I want to get more employee buy-in.
Sure.
Right? Because if you think about it, these are the guys that are going out in your company and they are doing the work. They're seeing the customer. They have a unique perspective on your business, right? And they see things that you don't see. And so to leave their opinion, untouched would be a shame. It'd be a waste.
Sure.
And they're all very talented. They're all very smart people. They're all bought into the culture. They all care a lot. And so to not get their opinion would be a waste.
Right.
So number one, like we started going, okay, and that's actually what we did when I was up there on our Thursday meeting, we were thinking about some pay structure changes. And I said, hey, let's just go to the technicians and let's tell them what we're thinking about. Let's get their input and get their buy-in before we make the change. That way it's not just us going, hey, here's how we're going to change your pay structure. It's, hey guys, here's the numbers we've been crunching. If this is what we're thinking about doing, here's why. What do you guys think? Is this something you want to try? And they get to go, oh yeah, I see why you're thinking that. Those numbers seem to make sense. Yeah, I'm down to try. Let's do it, right? Now they're bought in to the thought or the action from the beginning, right? It's not us telling them what to do. It's them going, yeah, let's do this together.
Yeah.
It's a big difference than just, this is how we're doing it, right?
Yep. And if they have any reason to protest and they don't,
yeah.
And then later they're like, this sucks. You're like, dude, we had an opportunity. We talked about this. It was an open conversation. Like, why didn't you say something then if you saw this problem?
Yeah. And for us, like with this change, when we were pitching it, like they had some good insight on it that we didn't think of as managers, right? And so we ultimately said, okay, well, let's try it. We'll revisit. And if you guys, have other input or don't like it, we can always revert to the past way, right? So it was good. It was good to get that buy-in and get their understanding of it before we even implement it.
Yeah.
It was cool. And I think it makes them not only is it good to get their input, but I think it makes them feel valued, cared for, their opinion matters. And it really does. So you want them to feel that way.
Yeah, and then they feel like they have more of a stake in the company because they're participating in the decisions.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily the generation of ideas, but in we contributed to this going forward and we all had our buy-in with it.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's very cool. We've talked about this before, though, about specifically what you were shifting in their pay scales. What was that you shifted in their pay scale?
Hey, if you want to take your plumbing business to the next level, you're going to want to join our coaching program over at Wealthy Plumber, where you can get everything you need to grow a multi-million-dollar plumbing company, including pricing calculators, SOPs, email campaigns, and the whole 9 yards. If you want to check it out, go to wealthyplumber.com. That is wealthyplumber.com. So we track everything in our company on hours sold. So if you go in YouTube and you get my hourly rate calculator, it'll give you how many hours you need to sell to cover your expenses make your profit margins, la-di-da-da-da. It's the exact same calculator we use in my business. And so we track like daily, like, did we sell enough hours? Yes. Or what profit margins did we hit today, right? We can check that daily, weekly, monthly. And then we can go look at our P&L at the end of the month, and the numbers should align. If our hours sold says we should have hit 20%, then our P&L should say 20%.
Yeah,
right?
gotcha.
So it's kind of like a quick check into your business.
Is there a different way that you could track sort of the same metric of profit other than hours sold that maybe you've tried before, you know, that other guys do?
I don't know of anything.
Maybe like revenue? Because I know sometimes like people will be like, this is my revenue that I track.
The problem with revenue is, like, I could go sell $100,000 piece of equipment for $102,000, and I had $102,000 revenue for the day.
Right.
Even that, I could sell $100,000 worth of stuff in one day.
Yeah.
But 50,000 of that could be equipment that I had to go buy, right? So
Sure.
I really only made 50 grand that day. Or I could go sell $100,000 worth of labor in a day.
Yeah.
Two very different things, same revenue numbers, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
So I don't think it's fair to track just revenue. I think you need to track hours sold, right? Because hours sold will give you a much better idea of how much profit you're actually making on those jobs. So you could do, I mean, there needs to be some, and the hours sold, it's a relative number. Like, it's not, it's just a metric that you're tracking. You're assigning a value to something. So every single task has an hour value. It doesn't have to be an hour value. It could be a
unit.
It could be a unit value or just some measurement, right? It just makes sense to do hours because it makes sense in the way we think. And it makes sense because now we can tie it to our hourly rate and all of that good stuff, right?
Okay, gotcha.
So it's just a metric that you're measuring on the daily that now, if you use our calculator, you have the ability to go look at how many of that metric you need in order to hit certain profit margins, right? So it's just a quick way to measure success of your business, daily, weekly, monthly. Is it 100% accurate? No, but it's close enough, right?
And that's why you have multiple checks and balances to see if the systems that you have in place to measure success are all actually working properly. Now, when you do these hourly rate calculator reviews with guys in the course, is there like this moment where guys struggle over the hours sold concept? Like, if they're coming from maybe a time and materials background, or maybe they don't have a flat rate system that's super robust.
A little bit.
Is there like a learning curve that happens in there?
A little bit. Because ultimately, I feel like they have an easier time if they're coming from time and material. Because they have an easier understanding of, we bill time and we bill material. Right. Which is not, that's not how you want to do it to the customer.
Right.
But when you go set up stuff in ServiceTitan or in most softwares, what they want you to do is they want you to build a task, right? So you're going to build a task to put in a toilet flapper, and it's going to have a time value, and it's going to have a material value, right? So you're going to enter those numbers in your task, and then once you get all of your tasks built out for your price book, then you're going to go enter a cost for that time value, or how much you're going to charge for that time, and how much you're going to mark up those materials, right?
Gotcha.
And then ServiceTitan is going to calculate the cost for that task, right? So when it's really a time and material situation when you're putting them in ServiceTitan. Where most people go wrong is like, when they're calculating how much their plumber's time is worth, they don't think about all of the expenses of your business.
Right.
So when you're coming up with how much your time is worth, you really have to go, okay, when I'm selling the customer an hour, I have to account for all of my expenses to cover that 1 hour. Right. Even efficiency needs to be factored in there because your guys aren't going to bill out 8 hours a day.
Right.
National average, they're going to bill out 5. Right. 5 to 6, basically. And so you need to factor that into that 1 hour that you're selling the customer. Right? Yeah. That's where most people go wrong.
Yeah. Gotcha.
But so once you understand that, it's like, okay, so I need to come up with an hourly rate that covers all of my expenses. And then I have materials separate, right? And then all Service Titan is doing is saying, we have this many hours, it's going to cost this much, and we have this much materials with this much markup, it costs this much. Here's the price.
Right.
Simple.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. The other thing we implemented, or we're about to implement, we're coming up on the end of the quarter here. Yeah, we are. End of this month. Crazy. Dude, third quarter is almost over.
Yeah.
Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It does. It does. So we do quarterly reviews with our guys. We created a Google form, which is super cool.
How do you create a Google form? Is that just like a Google?
Just go to Google Forms. Yeah.
Okay.
Super cool. Send
Google Forms, then it's like, here's the thing.
Yep. And then you just invite people to go fill it out or send them the link or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they can fill it out and you can select it so that they can submit anonymously.
Yeah.
So we've got it set. We've got a bunch of questions for them to review the management. So my general manager to review the CSRs, to review myself. So we're going to give it to all the technicians, and we've got one we're giving to the CSRs where we can get their feedback on like how the management is doing, you know, on a whole.
And this is quarterly?
This is quarterly. So we're going to go, and none of them know this yet, but we're going to...
Hopefully they don't listen to this.
After their quarterly reviews, some of them do, after their quarterly reviews, we're going to send them this survey so they can then review us as well every single quarter, which I think will be super valuable information. It'll give us a good idea of how we're doing, right? Because if you've got 9 or 10 technicians working for you, and one of them comes to you and is like, dude, this thing sucks, right?
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about it.
Yep. So then you, as the business owner, or you as the general manager, you're like, oh crap, like everything's going to hell. I got to do something about this problem. If you send out a survey, right, and you tell them, look, the survey is anonymous, answer the questions honestly, like this is your chance to let us know of anything that we need to get fixed. And you send out a survey and 9 of your technicians don't have this problem, but one of them does, it's likely a problem with that person.
Right.
And it's not a problem with the whole team, right?
Right.
Which doesn't mean that you don't need to address it.
Of course.
But it just helps you understand how to address that problem.
Yes.
It's not a team-wide problem. It's a person problem.
No, you don't have to go in and tweak a whole system
Right.
because of somebody's perceived systemic problem.
Yeah.
It's just a personal
It's just like,
thing.
oh, okay, I just need to like either educate this person, train this person, or treat them a little differently.
Right.
Or maybe try a different style of communication or something, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be super valuable moving forward.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes in this quarter and then the next quarter too.
Yeah.
And just to see like the consistency of buy-in from the guys and what the answers they give and if it's actually helpful. Because it's like at some point there is always the danger that it just won't be helpful. That guys will just, it'll just be, rah! It'll either be exaggerated or it just won't be attended to. And then, but it's better than nothing.
I think it's going to be helpful. Yeah, 100%. What else is cool about going back is just seeing, so I've got some of the guys, like you mentioned, I've got some guys that have worked for me for a long time.
Yeah.
Some of them are new. The ones that have worked for me for a long time, it's probably more important to go back, say hi, see how they're doing.
Yeah,
right?
they like you. I mean, especially the ones who were with you when you started.
Yeah.
Because they're like, dude.
They ultimately came to work at Prospector. Some of them because it was me.
Right.
Some of them because it was better pay and it was me. Some of them it was just better pay. They didn't care about me. But some of them they wanted to come work for Jared.
Right.
Don't know why. Don't understand that to this day.
I don't know why either.
But those guys, it's cool to go back and see one of my guys because I've been dealing with like the business is doing good. We've got other businesses going on. We're making money, and then I get faced with these huge tax bills. And so,
rich people problems.
Rich people problems. It's
man.
Like I got rich, now I got to spend all my money on real estate, or I give it to the government, and now I'm no longer rich again.
Yeah. See,
right?
like whatever episode before we talked about that.
Yeah. So I've been buying houses, and I've been thinking about like some of my guys are single, and so I asked one of my guys, I was like, "How much money did you make last year?" And he was like, "I made $145,000," and I was like, "What tax bracket are you in?" He's like, "Dude, I pay like 30% in taxes." And I was like, "Dang." And so I quickly did the math, and it's like 45 grand, maybe 48 grand. It's pretty high, somewhere around 45. And I'm sitting there thinking, he came in the shop one day and I was like, dude, come here. And I took him over to the whiteboard. I was like, look, you're giving the government $45,000 right now. If you just stopped giving that to the government and instead took that $45,000 and went and bought a $200,000 house, right? And then do a cost segregation on the house, it's likely that about 80% of that house, he'll be able to depreciate that first year. So $200,000 house, 80%, what is that? I have no idea. That'd be 80 grand, 160,000.
Something like that.
Right? He'll be able to roughly, maybe, these are rough numbers, they always are. He'll be able to, until you do an actual cost segregation.
Of course.
But he'll be able to probably depreciate his entire income, which means he will owe no taxes.
Right.
So instead of giving that $45,000 to the government, he'll have bought a house that he can then go rent out, and the house will gain in value, and his renter will pay it off. Even if the house doesn't make him any money, it's just a wash, right?
Right.
So I was like, I pitched that to him, and I'm like, you should, like, why aren't you, like, you should do this, like 100%. Like right now, you're just giving your money to the government. So I was like, okay, if you do this every year for 10 years, 10 years in, we did the math, like how much he gains on that first house, right? Number one, he gained $45,000 in equity, right? So his net worth went up 45 grand because instead of giving it to the government, he put it in an asset, which the difference between what he owes on it, and what it's worth is equity, right? So he gained 45 grand in equity day one. Then after 10 years, it pays off. We did the math. I want to say it was around 30 grand. So now he has 40, 50, 60, $75,000 in equity after 10 years, plus the appreciation of the asset.
Of course.
Let's say it's worth another 50 grand. He just made, that's a lot of math, 115,000. Yeah. 150,000 off that one house, right? Now he's making that every single year. Right? Every 10 years off the house he bought 10 years ago, he's 115,000 ahead. Not to mention, he's just going to keep getting ahead on that first house. Like if you go out 30 years, now he's probably made like 600,000, right? So, and he's a young guy. He's only like 30 years old. So if he just did that every day or every year for 30 years and bought 30 houses, by the time he was 60, he would increase his net worth by $600,000, right, per house that he has paid off, and he would be getting rental income, right? So he could probably retire just off the rental income. And he would have a ton of equity. He could then go pull out a line of credit on the equity, live off the line of credit, and spend all the money he makes buying more real estate and just keep it going, right? Totally wild.
What did he think?
It was super cool because he called me last night and he was like, dude, he said it just like that.
I know.
Yeah, you know him. He's like, dude, I'm going to look at another house. Found a house to buy. And I was like, dude, sweet. That's rad. He was like, yeah, I found this house. It's 200,000. Needs a little bit of work.
The cool thing is he could probably do a lot of the work himself.
It needs plumbing work.
Which is just a beautiful, dude, like a beautiful situation.
Super cool. And he already works on the side anyways. So it's like, dude, just go, instead of going and doing work for your aunt over there, go
fix
do work on your own house and then rent that sucker out. So he'll have even more equity in this place because as soon as he gets done working on it, it'll immediately be worth probably 50,000 more than what he bought it for. So he's probably going to gain 95,000 in equity the first year, right? Freaking rad. All with money he would have given to the government. If he paid taxes.
Would you ever consider having sort of a financial education program that you could offer to your plumbers within your company as sort of just like an added benefit? Like even if you just made like a school course, you're like, hey guys, like, listen, you got a 401k, that's cool. But the amount of money you're going to make here, you could actually utilize in different ways. I just want to equip you with this possibility because
I think it'd be cool because like part of the switch we made with our payroll, the way we're doing payroll is we're switching from, we went into hours sold and I didn't really explain like how we did it. Basically, as they would sell more hours, we would raise their hourly wage that they got paid for the time that they worked. Right. So if they sold 25 hours, they would go from $45 an hour on their paycheck to $55 an hour on their paycheck.
Right. So there's an incentive to go out and do a good job
and sell more hours. The problem was, and it's cool because we track our business by hours. So I know like when they sell 25 hours, I covered all my expenses. We hit our 20% profit margins. Anything after that is gravy. So if I can give my technicians a piece of that, then awesome. They make more money. I make more money, right? It's a win-win.
Yeah.
But the problem was it was hard for them to relate their, like how many hours they were selling with how big their paycheck was going to be.
Yeah. Cause it's kind of like they have to do some math and some
it's not a one-to-one. It's not I sell this, I get this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
And so we're switching to a commission. So now they get their base, whatever base hourly rate they're currently at, plus a commission, right? And I calculated it over the last couple of years. If we had done this, everybody would have made a little bit more money.
Right.
And I pitched it to them and I said, hey, I think this will work because I think it will help you guys relate the work you do with how big your paycheck is.
Yeah.
And what I think is going to happen is that's going to make us more efficient. And I said, if that makes us more efficient, I'll raise this commission because it's money out of thin air.
Yeah.
It's just created out of nothing.
Yeah.
Right. If we gain efficiency, it just creates more top line revenue for me. So I don't mind giving the technician another chunk of that money.
Right.
Like, why
not?
not?
Sure. Of course.
Like, I'll make more money and you can make more money. It's not costing the customer really anything more. And it's a win-win, right? And I really think it's a win-win-win because I think what happens right now is the technician, like when you go to somebody's house and you're looking at their system and you're thinking about stuff and you're presenting them with a bill, you're thinking, okay, I'm presenting this bill to the customer and they're going to have to pay this, right? And it's not something that you would want to pay for.
Right.
And so it can be tough for the technician to go there and do that. And a lot of times I think what happens is when they're in the middle of something and they're like, oh, snap, this thing over here is broken.
Yeah.
I don't want to mention it because they're already spending a lot of money, right? And that's where I think we're going to see the difference between the commission is they're going to go over there and they're going to look at that thing and they're going to go, they're already spending a lot of money, but I could get a little bit of commission off of that thing, right? And they're going to be able to go, this is going to be like another $1,000. That's more money on my paycheck, right? Whereas before they were like, this is worth so many hours. I don't know how many hours I'm at. I don't know if it's going to make a difference on my paycheck or not.
I don't know if this is actually going to get me to the next threshold to where I make more money.
So now there's no threshold and there's no limit either.
Sure.
So, and the reason I think that's a win for the customer is because I am of the opinion that if you're at somebody's house and you notice something that's wrong in their house, that you're doing them a disservice if you don't mention it to the customer.
Yeah,
right?
Sure, of course. Think about a doctor. The doctor example. If the doctor goes into your body and he sees a bunch of stuff wrong and he's like, I don't want their medical bill to be huge. We'll just fix the broken arm and not the cancer.
Yeah.
It's just
then 2 weeks later you come in and the doctor's like, oh yeah, I saw that 2 weeks ago. And you're like, you're piece of crap.
You're like, excuse me? What happened here? Yeah.
Yeah. Same scenario, right? But for the technicians, they're in a little bit of a different headspace. Yeah. So I can try and train them on that all day long and I can preach that to them all day long. But if I can train them on that and they can tie it to their paycheck, I think it's going to help them be able to present those options to the customer.
It's like a double reinforcement. It's like, hey, not only is this good for the customer, but it's also good for you directly to your paycheck, not in an abstract way.
Yeah. So it's like creating money out of thin air, serving the customer better. The business gets to make more money, which means I make more money. And if we structure it properly, the technician will make more money because of it. Yeah. Right. They're already going to make more money just by mentioning more stuff. Right. Right. And so then if I can bump up their commission because we're actually selling more work, cool. Yeah. Awesome. Like I want my guys to make as much money as possible. Right. And still maintain business profits. That's what I want. That's like my ultimate goal. Like how can you guys make as much money as possible? How can we maintain profits? And how can we provide a really good service to the customer to where they're happy, they're getting what they want and what they need, and they're happy about it. Right. They're giving us 5-star reviews. Yep.
Because that's going to just perpetuate the cycle.
It'll just keep going, right?
Yeah, and I think when people like hear this and they're like, oh, this doesn't, like they have a doubt in the system, I think if you go to your reviews, you see you have so many good reviews that it's like, okay, well, the customer has sounded off on their opinion. And they're like, yeah, this is acceptable. Like this what you've run so far at your plumbing company, the customer says, yeah, this is good. I'm down with this.
It's not even just that it's good. They're like, this is phenomenal, right? They're like, this is freaking really good.
Yeah.
Like my business, you either hate us or you freaking love us.
Yeah, because it's either it's way too expensive or, man, this is really cool because I feel like that this service was well done and executed and all these boxes were checked.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. There's no in between.
I think it would be super cool if you did do like a financial education component to your company for your guys. Only because then not only are you equipping these guys with enough money to like live a good life, but you're also equipping them beyond what you can provide them.
Yeah.
Because you can only provide them a paycheck that is so big, right?
Yep.
Those guys aren't going to make $1 million a year.
No.
But if they put 10 years at your company and each year they're buying an investment property, they could get to the point where they can actually put serious cash away.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can say, hey, man, think about this. Before you leave my company to go do something else,
Yep.
you're at year 5. Well, let's just pretend like they're at year 2 and they've only bought one house, maybe. Or you can even paint the picture and be like, the longer you stay here, first off, you're going to make this money, if not more.
Yep.
And with that money, you can invest, which I can teach you how to do because I built this program. And so it doesn't just make sense for you to stay here longer. And then what's cool is from like, because if I was an employee at your company and I was pitched this idea, I was like, dang, so you're saying I can make enough money here to buy a rental every year to then increase just my net worth so that in 10 years, I might not actually have to do this? And you're like, yeah. I'd be like, dang, that's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of incentive now to stay here and do a good job because the out isn't a 401k when I'm 53 and a quarter or whatever.
And that's the thing. Like all these guys have 401ks, they have pension plans, they have all that stuff. But it's like, you do the math, it's not, I don't think it's going to be enough.
Well, and it's also dependent upon so many things that isn't the individual. Like your pension and your 401k has nothing to do with you. It just exists, right? And we hope that it's going to do whatever it's supposed to do. But the minute you start investing with your own energy and your own time into real estate, other things, whatever that may be, now suddenly you're in the driver's seat to control that asset, which is so much more powerful.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to rely on one source of income.
Especially one as dodgy as a 401k. I know. Like a 401k is pretty dodgy, man.
It is. And like I'm that way right now. I don't put in a 401k, but like I look at my plumbing business and I'm like, okay, this is cool. This makes a lot of money. It spits out a lot of cash.
But
I look at everything this way.
Yeah.
How can we decrease the risk in this?
Yes.
Right. And it all like in your business, it's like, okay, let's increase margin and that decreases risk.
Yeah.
And you have a few ways of doing that. You can charge more, you can get economy of scale, or you can cut expenses, right? So the game should be, how can I offer this really good product as cheap as possible and charge the maximum amount for it so that my margin is as fat as possible. And as you scale, right, you get more margin, which decreases your risk. Right. Because business is risky.
Of course it is.
You got people involved, you got marketing involved. There's a ton of moving parts, right?
You have a global economy involved. You got all sorts of things.
All sorts of stuff.
You have a list of things that are in your control, and then you have a very large list of things that are not in your control.
Yes. Yep.
And that margin, every time something goes haywire, then potentially you need to cut into that margin to cover the haywire.
Yeah.
And if you don't have very much of that, then when things go bad, then you will just cut.
You're done.
Yeah. You don't have anything to cut.
And so the only way to decrease that risk is higher margin, right? More cash. Even just building a bigger business, right? So in the beginning stages of your business, your business might make $200,000, $300,000 a year. That's some cash, but if you have a just slightly bigger business, it's not a ton more risky, but yet it can make $1 million in cash. Now you have more cash to mitigate that risk, right? So not only do you have more margin, but you have more cash as well.
Yeah.
So it's like double.
Yeah.
My mentor always says, what did he say? It was his business coach that told him any business could go under in 90 days. Happens all the time. 90 days, business is doing really good.
That's
90 days later, they're done, right? So knowing that and looking at my plumbing business, it's like, yes, it spits out a lot of cash. Yes, I could probably run it for the next 10 years, 20 years, have enough money to retire. never have to work again, right? If I kept my living expenses super low, I could probably retire in like 3 years.
Sure.
But I look at it and I'm like, okay, I need to diversify my risk. I need to create more margin and keep going so that ultimately it's like I got so many things going on that if one of them fails, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
And that's how these guys that work for you are as well. Like they're putting all their eggs in one basket. They're working for you. They are putting away in a 401k, maybe if you've got one.
Yep.
And they're relying on that.
Yep.
And savings. That's it. It's not enough. It really isn't.
No, I think it's really cool to be able to teach them a long perspective in a systematic way too on what they can do with their future to sort of change the scope. Because like the same thing that we try to do in this podcast, where we're just trying to talk to the plumbing business owner about the value potential within their company. Yep. Like you can do that to your plumber technician. The value potential that he can do if he just uses things he doesn't know. Yep. Like you make this money, make these investments. And it doesn't have to be a complicated thing. Like for you, you can just make a program that'll take you a couple weeks and then be like, oh, there it is. Hey guys, access this. Yeah. Hey, Eddie, make sure that they're accessing it so they know it's there. Right.
Yep. Yeah, I should do that.
Yeah, I think
I'll have you make it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll put it on my list. Tick, 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 tick. And then Costin, what are you doing today?
I'm getting real, one thing like, this, I've been on my calendar kick. We talked about it on a podcast. Cool kick. It's if you can live and die by your calendar and you can figure out how to block out time for things that need to get done. So like go figure out your recurring things that you have to do every week in order to get to where you want to go. I'm going to back up. Set a goal for yourself, number one. And then number two, break that goal down into steps. Like what do I need to do to get to my goal? If you don't know, go find out. Like go do the research, figure it out. Like how do I get to this goal? And then sometimes if you have a really huge goal, you got to break it down into smaller goals.
Right, of course.
And then go write down your recurring tasks, right? And go write down the one-time tasks and throw that crap on your calendar. And you will be surprised at how little time you have left in the day.
Or you'll be surprised how poorly you use your time.
How poorly you use your time.
Because you could also see that like, oh, I have a lot of time via my calendar, but I feel that at the end of every day and every week, I feel like I'm pushed. Yep. Like I don't have enough time to do the things. Yeah. And a lot of times that's just because your attention is drifted somewhere where it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. Like you're scrolling through social media on your phone. Yeah. You're watching too many YouTube podcasts. Yeah. Which I wouldn't say is a waste of time. Like if you own a plumbing business and you're listening to this, that would be a good use of your time.
Yes.
But if you own a plumbing business and it's not going so well, and instead you're sitting on the couch scrolling through useless TikTok stuff. Yeah. Like that's a waste of your time.
Yes.
But yeah, lately, like on my calendar click.
Well, it's like we got a clique of guys who use a calendar. Yeah. We were on my calendar together.
On my calendar kick.
Didn't we make a joke about this mountain biking? Like,
I don't know, did
calendar
we?
boys or something?
I don't know,
yo,
really
put it
dumb.
on my Cali or something like that.
Yo, dog.
Put it on my Google Cal.
So it's a whole new way of thinking about it because like being a plumber, you don't use a calendar, right?
Let alone a Google Calendar.
Dude, yeah. But once you're a business owner, the sooner you can adopt your calendar, the sooner you can identify the things you need to do to move forward, and the sooner you can put those on your calendar and then live and die by your calendar. So my calendar's got my sleep. My calendar's got wake up and brush your teeth. My calendar's got it's got like go start the coffee pot and then go brush your teeth. Yeah. And then it's like go drink your coffee and read your Bible. And then then I spent an hour reading a book. This is a new one I got because I was trying to read my book at night and I didn't have the attention span for it. And so I spent an hour reading a book to learn something that I need to learn. It's like my study time, right? And then I go work out for an hour. And then I've got shower and eat breakfast. And then it's like my whole work day is planned out the day before. This is what I'm doing today at these times. And if you can do that, like number one, when you're putting stuff in your calendar, you'll be like, dang, there's like no white space left. Yeah. And then you'll be looking at your to-do list. You'll be like, no wonder I feel like I don't have any time, because you don't.
Yeah.
You don't have much time. It's the one thing you don't have much of. So like you talking about making a class for
when you
guys,
do that.
yeah, lately I've been like, okay, I have so many recurring tasks that I do that the white space is so small where I have to go, okay, I agree this is a good idea.
Sure.
Let's have somebody else do it.
Right.
Here's the guidelines. Here's what I want to see. Hey, homeboy, you implement this because I don't have time. It's awesome.
So I've been thinking about this with sort of when you go back to setting that goal. And I think, tell me what you think about this, but what would it look like if before you set that goal, you establish for yourself as much as you can, I guess, the values that you choose to live by? Because I think those values are going to inform that goal.
Yeah.
And that will eventually inform the company that you start.
Yeah, I think so. It's not, I don't know if values is a good way to think about it. I mean, maybe it is, but I would say a better thing to do would be, maybe not a better thing, but probably a more important thing to do first is just figure out what you want.
Sure.
Which can be really tough.
Yeah.
Like, I think we all know our values. I think we all know.
We might live them to some extent, but to quantify them in like a sentence, I think is hard. But I think it's important.
I think if you quantify your values and then use your values to figure out what you want.
Yes.
I think that would probably be the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
And it's freaking tough.
I think it is tough, but I think it's worth thinking about until you can do this.
It is.
I just had a conversation with a friend of mine last night, and he had a buddy who helped him like define why he was working where he was. And one of the questions is like, hey man, why are you working at this company? And he's like, well, because I want to make a bunch of money. He's like, no, you don't, because you're still working here. It's a startup, right? Yeah. And he could go off and make a bunch of money with his skill set. And he's like, no, that's not why you're here. And he's like, oh, well, I guess you're right. And then the guy just broke down to my friend just what actually he was doing.
Yeah.
But it gave him clarity, because he's like, I've been operating out of my values. Like I've been doing things properly with integrity and all these things, but I haven't actually had a finger on what they were.
Yeah.
And I think it's important because then you can use those to sort of be in alignment when you set your goals. So when you do fill that calendar, the things on there are actually moving you towards your goals instead of just things that you put on there.
Yeah, I agree.
And then one more thing I was thinking about the calendar is it's a really useful tool to take the abstract and put it into the concrete.
Yeah.
Because again, like as a plumber, you're used to dealing in the concrete. And so suddenly when you have all these like floaty goals, like I have a business and I have to do these things and get these things done, they just stay up there. But once you put them on a calendar that you have to actually live by, then suddenly it's a concrete idea.
Yep.
So it's cool. It's almost like the final step where you take all the stuff and then you put them, well, the second to last step. The final step is implementation.
Yep.
But you put them on a thing and then you actually do it.
Yeah. So like anybody who just started their business, if they can just go, okay, I'm going to be a technician between these hours and these hours. This is technician time. That's going to be super helpful. And then what are all the other things in my business that I need to do to move my business forward, right? Okay, let's schedule out time for those. Well, where am I going to fit it at? You got to fit it in there somewhere if you want to move forward, right? And then like next step, you start hiring guys. You finally pull out of the truck. You're in the office. Now you're in this whole new realm that you've never been in before, likely. Most of the guys have always worked in the field, and now they're coming into an office position. And what happens when you're in an office position is you have an infinite amount of things that can be done. Yeah. Because you want to take your plumbing business to way out here, and there's a gazillion things you got to do to get it there. And you'll just start working on something that's like something that's obvious
the
to
first
work
thing
on,
in front
right?
of your face.
And you'll be like, your attention will be pulled all over the place, and you won't actually know like, okay, I got to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this. So
sure, you won't have a system of approaching the problem solving.
Exactly. And once you like start to live and die by your calendar, then when you go to work, you'll be like, okay, even if you do it at the beginning of the day, like sometimes I just wake up and I go, okay, I got to fill my calendar for the day. I go to my to-do list, like things that I need to get done. You know, I have like immediate to-dos, and I have things that need to get done in the next week, things that need to get done in the next couple weeks, things that need to get done this month. And I just drag those things over and put them in my calendar. Like, okay, let's fill up my schedule for today. Cool. Now I'm busy all day. I know exactly what I'm doing today. I'm getting the things done, their immediate needs on my to-do list, and I'm making progress.
Yeah. You're still knocking out your to-do list.
So helpful.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, you'll always feel like you have way too much to do, and it'll be really hard to like go to work and stop work and then go home and spend time with your family.
Sure. Yeah. And then also, if you get used to doing that before you get in the office, you'll understand that the time to be a technician is done.
Yeah.
So you don't have that temptation to go, well, I'll just get in the field and go out there and really make some money today.
Yes.
Because like, yeah, you can do that, I suppose, but
Yeah.
you're going to trade momentum for the rest of your business.
Yeah.
But I think like even with you, I don't know how much of a temptation that was with you, but I do feel like that even with you, it was like, I could just go and do this. Like I could just do this task and we could get it done. And but you had this technician out there in the field. You're like, no, I'm just going to let him do it.
Yep.
Just going to let him figure it out for the next 6 hours when I could knock it out in 3.
When you start hiring employees, you start to realize that you have to let them fail, right?
Yeah.
And so you can set them up to the best of your ability for success. You can train them. You can guide them in the right direction, but then you have to let them go do their thing, even if it means they fail.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that. And then when they fail, you have to go, hey man, like that didn't work. How'd that work out for you? Maybe you should try it this way next time. And then it'll be like, oh, I get it. Yeah. Now I see why you say to do it this way.
Yeah.
Right. That's a tough lesson to learn. Like when I was in the field, I was the guy that if me and you were working together, I had the tools, you were handing me stuff.
Yes.
Right.
We're lifting the heavy things. We're sweeping the corners, all the fun stuff.
No, I was the one in there doing the work. Right. And you can't do that when you start hiring technicians. You have to let them do their work.
Yeah.
And you need to stay not out of it 100%. You need to know what's going on, but you need to just hands off, let them do their thing, and you do your thing in the office.
Yep.
Yeah. Super important.
Cool. Hey,
even to this day, with my business how it is, I still have to do that. I have to go, you guys got it. You can handle it. Things happen. Like, it's not like my business is perfect. Like, things break, things go wrong.
Of course.
People do stupid stuff, but at the end of the day, they all just handle it. Right. They're all good employees.
Which is what you want to see them handle it anyway. So that, because if you're always handling it, then you're still doing it.
Then I'm the one handling it.
Yeah, exactly. That's
what
not the point.
What good is this business?
Yeah, exactly. It's not giving you the freedom that you want.
Like, it could still make me a lot of money, but I wouldn't have the freedom, like you said. Yeah. I'd still be heavily involved, and I don't need to be. So why?
Yeah.
And honestly, like most of my guys or even my general manager, they'd get pissed at me if I went in there and was like, I'm just going to handle this, guys. They'd be pissed. They'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, stop it. We got this.
Go away.
Get out of here.
You don't think we're capable?
Yeah.
You don't think we can do this?
Exactly.
Okay. I got a question.
Okay. Hit me.
This comes from Trevor Duncan.
Trevor Duncan. What up, dog?
Yeah. He says, hey, by the way. Okay. So I'm just going to read through this and then we can talk through it.
Cool.
Okay. Hey, man, couple of questions. I'm taking my contractor's test in California in 5 weeks. Maybe you can answer them for me here or on the podcast. I'm trying to structure pricing for my future HVAC company. You say to charge $400 an hour, and I do agree with that, especially once I'm legit and have to add costs for insurance and just general business costs. My question is, do you use the same pricing for service calls or large swap outs only? I can see a $400 an hour charge for 8 hours to replace a system, but $400 an hour for a service call to repair something, I just don't see how I can sell that. Anyway, if you can answer that for me, awesome. If not, no worries. Love the content, man. Big listener of the pod.
Nice. Well,
Trevor, thanks for the question, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the podcast.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah. I would say, so first of all, I do say like minimum $400 an hour, but in reality, if you're watching on YouTube, you should go, and if you're not, go to YouTube. In the description of this video and all of our recent videos, maybe even all of our videos, I don't know, there's a link to our hourly rate calculator. Just go get that sucker and use it, right?
There's a video that comes with it. Just watch that video.
There's a video that comes with it that is probably going to get updated to be even better.
I saw in your face, you went, oh crap, I got to make a new video.
It's like that thing I forgot. I got to put it in my calendar.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll do it right now.
Yeah. Podcast break.
Yeah. Jared's got to put something in his calendar.
No, but I would say go grab that calendar because, $400 an hour.
Grab that calculator.
Sorry. $400 an hour is not just some number that we pull out of our butt. It's just a number that we see very frequently, right? Yeah. So, but what it is like, if you go through the calculator, you can calculate what it costs you to run your business for where you're at.
Sure.
So, and what I mean by where you're at is where you're at geographically, right? So
sure.
It's cheaper to live in Florida than it is in New York City.
Yeah.
So plumbers in Florida are going to be able to be cheaper because it's not going to cost them as much to run their business as somebody that's in New York City.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people look at my calculator, like we run ads to our calculator on the internet, and a lot of people comment like, there's no way this works because I'm in New York City and what somebody over here, there's no way they can all charge the same. I'm like, no dip, Sherlock, because you're not going to charge the same. It should be based off what it costs you to run your plumbing business, right? Yeah. So in the beginning stages, like this guy doesn't have a business yet. He's working on it. In the beginning stages, you need to calculate what it's going to cost you to run your plumbing business and then start charging that from the beginning so that you can get there quicker, right? The more you charge, the faster you get there.
Yep.
Like I said in this podcast, the thing you should be trying to do is maximize the amount that you charge for your service, right? So yeah, that like the way to think about that is there's a point in your business. It's what we call valleys of despair, right? I wish I had a board I would just draw this on, but I don't. But basically,
someday,
if you've got two axes, right? Or axes or whatever you call them, and as you scale across, let's say left to right, you scale, right? And then top or bottom to top, you gain efficiency. So as you scale your business, you gain efficiency, right? So I have a business and I bring on a technician, right? I have $100,000 in overhead and it's just me. When I go bill out to the customer, I have to cover all of that $100,000 in overhead plus a profit. When I add a technician, right? Let's say the technician is only 20 grand to add in. My overhead only goes up by 20 grand. So now it's 120,000, but now I have two people that can go out and bill. So I just doubled the capacity of being able to bill, right? So now each person is only responsible for 60 instead of one person being responsible for the whole 100, right? And so that just keeps going. As you add more technicians, your overhead will roughly stay the same. It will only go up by what it costs you to add that technician, right? So things like shop rent, insurance, like a bunch of the costs of your business all stay relatively the same, or they just go up a little bit when you add in a person. So the more technicians you add in, the more you split up your overhead for your business, okay? There's a point in your business. There's multiple points throughout the journey of your business that do this very thing. And this applies to any business. It's always the same. Like we see it in our buddy Alex's business, right? So you start out.
He's not a plumber, by the way.
He's not a plumber. He's got the same problem. Trying to talk him out of it, but he's pretty stubborn.
He'll get there.
He will. I believe in him. So basically, when you first start, right, and you get to this point where you have 3 technicians, okay, and at that point, what you really need a CSR. You have 3 technicians. You need a small shop. You have all the proper insurance and bonding and all that stuff. If you're keeping your guys busy, then you need to be spending enough money on marketing. You need to have a marketing company on retainer. You need to have at least 4 service vehicles, right? Because if one breaks down, you need to be able to have another one there for the guy to run on. You need to be on Service Titan. You need to have iPads. You need to have uniforms, like all of that stuff, right? And so you can pull 3 technicians into your business, but the second you get like 3 guys, they really need somebody to lead them, right? And the business really needs a manager, and it needs you to pull out of the field, right? And so the second the owner is not out in the field billing anymore, all of a sudden that increases the overhead a lot, right? So there's these points in your business where in order to scale, you have to increase overhead a lot, right? And those are called valleys of despair because you gained efficiency by adding 3 technicians, but then the second you pulled out of the field, you lost some.
Yeah.
Right. And
because you're no longer out there billing.
Yep. And
but you're still taking a paycheck.
Yes. And here's what most people do. This is where most people fail. This is where everybody fails, right? If you fail, this is where you fail. You either don't charge enough to ever get out of the field.
Right.
So you can never stop billing. Right? Because you have to be generating income in order to make a paycheck.
And then you're capped on scale because you can only hire so many guys and manage them well from the field.
Yes, exactly. That's where I've seen countless business owners get stuck.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just because they're not charging enough to actually pull out of the field and grow their business. Or they charge just enough to get out of the truck. But then they go down in this valley of despair. They lose the efficiency the second they do, and they just stay there, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a vicious cycle. They never get out of the valley because they have to charge enough to get out of there, right?
Sure.
It takes like to get out of there, you have to grow, right? You have to gain more efficiency to get out of there.
Sure.
And
efficiency comes in the form of more technicians.
Yes. And in order to grow, you have to reinvest back into your business, which means you have to take some of your profits and reinvest them back in your business in the form of vans, marketing, tools, more guys, right? Yeah. But if you're in this valley of despair and you're charging just enough to be there, you're not making any profits.
Sure.
You're just collecting a paycheck, basically.
And your guys are just collecting a paycheck.
Yes. And you can never reinvest back in the business.
So you're because you don't have any margin.
You're constantly stuck.
You had margin until you pulled out, and then you lost all your margin.
Yep. So what happens is people stay there forever, or they go back in the truck, or stay there forever, or go back in the truck, or stay there forever.
When they stay there, what do they think is their problem?
They usually think it's more leads. Sadly, yeah. They're usually like, I just need more leads, or I need better leads, or I need cheaper marketing, or I need to lower my expenses.
Yeah, because they're thinking the path to efficiency is just doing more.
Yeah.
So like when they're thinking of scale, they're thinking of if I get more leads, that's going to increase my scale. At some point, if I get so many leads, of course, I'll have to hire a guy to be able to handle the lead flow.
Or they might say, I just need better guys. I need guys who can bill out more. These guys suck, right? But the reality is, like, your guys are only going to be so good. You get what you get, right? It's just how it is. Like, you can only get so good of guys. You're not going to get all super rock star dudes who are as good as you are.
And statistically, like, A players are A players because they're more rare, right? You know, it's like if everybody was an A player, honestly, everybody would probably just go start their own business.
Exactly.
So you're going to get a couple A players.
And none of them care as much as you do either.
No, they won't. It's just, it is what it is.
Yep. And so to get, like, the reality is to get out of there, you just have to charge more. You don't have to be more efficient. You don't have to get better leads or cheaper leads. You don't have to get technicians to sell more. You don't have to try and upsell every customer on this fancy new system.
Yeah.
You don't have to go towards only doing water heaters.
Yeah.
La-di-da-di-da. You name the excuse. It's not the case. 99 times out of 100, it's not the problem. The problem is you just need to charge more.
And I think what happens to guys in that first valley of despair is they'll go invest in things like, well, if we get the guy's sales training, it'll increase efficiency.
Yes.
Or if we get this new, shall I say, untested form of marketing, we'll get the leads that we need. And they start to sort of branch out and do these things that at some point could be helpful, but not at this moment.
Right.
And it's almost like an example of like the business owner is out of the truck. And so he's like, okay, what am I going to do? He doesn't have a Google Calendar, so he's just trying to attack whatever problem he can get his hands on. And instead of doing the simple thing, relatively simple thing of just raising prices, it's like, okay, well, let's get the guy's sales training, and that'll get him on. We'll feel good. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit the table. Sorry, everybody listening. That was just me hitting the table. Nothing wrong with your car.
Because everybody listens to their podcast in their car.
Yeah, that was a little pre-podcast conversation. You know, Costin could cut into that, you know. But instead of trying to find that sales training
Yeah.
to increase efficiency, which honestly, like,
Or
even
that
if,
secret marketing tactic.
yeah, and honestly, even if you got like badass sales training and you raise your efficiency, you would still be in the valley of despair.
You would.
Like, because your
Yeah.
guys would go from 55% to, let's say, 65%, which I would say would be an incredible increase.
That
Like,
would
that's
be.
that's some crazy sales training.
That's not going to happen.
No.
No.
And it's not going to get you out of the valley.
No.
It's going to get you like climbing up,
Yep.
like, but you're still going to be
And you'd be
there.
like, ah, damn it.
Yeah.
And the easiest thing to do, but the thing that nobody wants to do is just raise prices.
Yeah.
Because they believe that if they raise prices, the customers are going to stop buying.
Yeah.
And at some point, that's probably true, but I haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
I don't know where that is, right? And the thing is like if you can raise your prices, then it's good for you, it's good for your employees, and it really is good for the customer.
Yeah.
Like it's a win-win-win. There's no, I think Dan Kennedy said, there's no strategic advantage to being the second cheapest in the market, but there's a huge strategic advantage to being the most expensive, right? Because now you can afford to provide the most value. You can afford to pay your employees more, which means you get more employees. You can afford to take better care of your customer. You can afford to outmarket all of your competition.
Right.
Like there's a huge strategic advantage to being the most expensive. So like these guys who are calling around and getting prices and figuring out where to price their services, they should go find the most expensive plumber in their market, figure out what they're charging, and charge more. Like
Sure.
that would be the better move to make, right? But it's just a weird belief that we have that there's a limit to how much we can charge the customer, but there's not. There is no limit. Like the more value you provide, the more you can charge.
Right.
There's a limit to how much value you can provide.
Right.
But I would argue that my business is even hitting that limit. Like we provide a ton of value, but I still see areas to this day where we can provide more value to the customer.
Yes. And that's,
And here's the thing, and this is get way off topic to the question, but it's not even more value, like concrete value. It's perceived value.
yes.
So, and let me tell you what I mean by that, because I was having this discussion with my brother today, because there's tons of businesses out there that are giving out tons of value via, uniforms, booties, same day service, good looking technicians, upfront prices, that kind of stuff. I added value in my company just by communicating to my customers that we pay our guys a really good wage,
Right.
that they have a 401k, that we actually care about them, right? So the stuff we were already doing in our company, that's valuable to some of our customers because now they're like, you know what, I want to support this company,
Especially this day and age, man.
even though they're more expensive, because I want to make sure that, I'm supporting companies that are supporting their employees. So just by letting them know that we take care of our employees, the perceived value of my company went up, right? So yes, there's a limit to the value. I don't know where it is. The only limit to the price is based on how much value you can provide to the customer, right? And you don't know where that is until you try it.
And I think that it's like for you have not grown complacent in your business, even at this moment, because there's always opportunity for improvement. And I mean, like, there's some quote about complacency, but it's something like complacency is like the enemy of innovation.
Yeah.
Because like early on in the conversation, we're talking about how you're investing in real estate. You could become complacent. And then what would happen is you'd probably become just less profitable overall.
Yep.
Because things that don't, when we don't maintain things, they start to break.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
You even gotta stay hungry.
Yeah.
It's like,
You got to cultivate hunger almost.
yeah, like Grant Cardone always says, I go broke. What does he say? 4 times a year, every quarter. He goes
Because
broke.
he goes and spends all his money on new investments.
Yeah, I go broke. I go cash broke.
Yeah.
I'm broke. I got to go make some more money, right? But because of that, he's become really good at making more money.
Yeah, because he
Right?
puts himself.
He's
in a
always
corner.
hungry. I got to go do this. I'm gonna die if I don't.
Okay,
right?
so we can flip that on the plumbing business owner because like especially if you're in that valley of despair, like bro, you are hungry whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
You have to get out of this or you will go work for somebody else inevitably.
And the easiest thing to do is just raise prices.
Yeah.
Know your expenses and know what it takes to cover those expenses
Yeah.
and make a profit. and charge enough to actually make a profit so you can reinvest in your business and get the hell out of there, right?
And Trevor, coming back to your question, get the pricing calculator, and then whether it's a small job or a big job, you're going to be charging what the calculator shows you.
Yeah. Real quick. The reason I brought all this up, when you're in that valley of despair, right? And you've pulled out of the field, you're in the business. We need a price for that point right there. And the reason is that is what I would consider, like, number one, if you don't, when you get there, you're just going to have to raise prices to get out of there.
Sure.
So you may as well charge it now so that you can get there as quick as possible and get out of there, right?
Or just have the momentum to just power right through it.
Yeah.
Like you just touch it, but then you
won't even notice.
Through. Yeah.
Yep. And what that does, like, there's two things there. Number one, if you can just get there and scale past it, then the second you start scaling past it, you go to 4x, 5x, 6x, you're gaining margin, right? Because you're increasing efficiency by adding more technicians, which decreases your risk in your business. I would want to get there as quick as possible. I wouldn't want to wait around to get there. The fastest way to get there is to price to where you want to be. So start with higher prices based on that valley of despair and build the margin back in your business and lower your risk, right? And it's just a matter of time. Like, if you wait 2 years to scale to 6 guys, in that 2-year time span, the likelihood of something happening that's going to cost you a good amount of money is pretty high, right? But if I can scale to, I'm going to change that to 5 years. Let's say 5 years, because a lot of guys are like, I just want to add 1 guy a year. Say in 5 years, you get to 6 guys in your business or 5 guys in your business, right? The chances of something happening that's going to cost you a lot of money in that time span is super high.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. The longer you go.
It's almost like a for sure thing. Yeah. Something's going to happen that's going to cost you $20,000 to $30,000, right? If you can shorten that time frame to get to 6 guys to a year, the likelihood of something happening that's going to cost you a ton of money goes way down, right? And then in the next 4 years, you're already making good margins. You already have lots of fluff, lowered risk in your business. So when something does happen, it's not as big of a deal, right? So I would want to get there as quick as possible. That's how I think about it. The other thing is the valley of despair, right? And you can think of it as like the barrier to entry. Okay.
Yep.
So the second you have 3 technicians, you have uniforms, you're on Service Titan, you have iPads, you have a CSR, you have a way of doing business, you've pulled out of the field, you've got a shop, your business is turning the corner and it turns into a real business at that point, right? It's a real business. It's a real thing, right? And it needs to be treated like a real thing. Anybody who wants to become a real business like you at that point and offer the same value that you're bringing to the marketplace, they're going to have to charge as much as you are in order to do that, right? So anybody who comes in and doesn't charge that, they're not going to be able to reach that level in business, okay? And so they literally can't compete with you on value because they're not charging enough.
Yeah, let me add something here real quick.
Yeah.
Because we're not even talking about let's add value to see how expensive we get to, that's not what you do, obviously, but we can keep adding value and raising our prices until the customer rejects it. Right. Like, you're not even anywhere near that point.
No.
You're just at, hey, plumbing business is expensive, guy.
Yeah.
Like, to do this, it's expensive.
It's
this isn't even like innovative value, right? This is just the bare minimum.
Yep.
So when we talk about this quote unquote $400 per hour, like, we're like bare minimum.
Yes. Yep.
So like, there's nothing here that's like, this is what the market can bear, blah, 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 kind of thing.
And that's why we say 400. Typically around the United States, we never see anything less than $400.
Yeah.
Some places it's $450, some places it's $5, some places it's $550, some places it's $6, some places it's closer to $7.
Yeah.
Depending on the area you're at and how expensive it is to operate your business there. Yeah, and like, to answer his question, to your point, like, it's expensive to run your business. So when you go do a service call, you have to charge that.
Yeah.
You don't have an option.
Yes.
Like if you want a business that makes a profit, you absolutely have to charge that or you won't make a profit. And if you're not going to make a profit, why would you do it?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
This is just going to be a headache when you stall out at your first valley of despair.
Yep.
And you're just going to be there spinning your wheels trying to figure out how to get more leads.
Exactly.
That's where it's going to be if you don't charge more.
Yeah. So you have to, right? The other side of that is the customer doesn't care, right? The customer wants somebody to come fix their problem. The problem is that on those little jobs like that service work, right? There's a lot of companies or a lot of guys, one truck chucks, who are like, I don't want to go do that because I don't make any money on it.
Right.
So I know I always tell the story of the guy that called me when I was $120 an hour and he said, hey man, I'm just looking for somebody to come change my toilet flapper. And I was like, well, I mean, to be honest with you, like I can come change your toilet flapper, but it's not really worth my time because it's going to take me like 5 minutes and it's like a $5 material. And even if I build you for a whole hour, it's only going to be like $130.
Yeah.
And I get tons of calls. Like I could go to these other jobs that I can bill out 4 or 5 hours and I'll make way more money. And he's like, I don't care what it costs. I just need my toilet flapper fixed.
I've been trying to get this problem solved.
Yeah.
Man.
He's like, I have called everybody that I can find to come replace my toilet flapper and I can't get anybody to come do it. And he was like, just charge me what you need to charge me to make it worth it. And I was like, it didn't even click in my head at that time. Like, oh, but later on it was like, oh, I get it now. That he was willing to pay me whatever I had to charge him to make it worth it to go change that toilet flapper. And that's exactly what you have to do with your business. You have to go, what does it cost me to go change that toilet flapper? And how much do I need to make on that toilet flapper in order to hit my profit margins, right? And that's what the calculator will help you do. And then when you go to somebody's house and they need a toilet flapper change, you're willing to go do it because you know you're going to make a profit on it. And there's 1,000 other plumbers out there that aren't willing to go do it because they're not going to make any money on it, right? So you have to, and the customer wants you to. It's just how it is.
And I think if there's a sense that like, oh, I could never charge that much, like that's only because for however long people haven't been charging enough. So
dude, yeah,
there's a perception that plumbing is something that can be done at $200 per hour.
Yep.
And it's actually a real business, which is only because people have been charging around there for long enough for the customers to get acquainted with that cost.
Yeah, there is no such thing as going rate. There is no such thing as...
Yeah, that's such like if you Google search, what is the average, national average of a per hour plumber? Because customers will do that, but like, it's nothing. Even if it's based upon the current, don't assume that is actually correct. Because we can tell you right now, it's not correct.
If 90% of people are undercharging, then the average is going to be way too low, right? And if what Dan Kennedy says is true, there's no strategic advantage of being second cheapest, but there is a huge advantage to being the most expensive, then why would you go off average anyways? Right?
Yeah, sure, of course. Why would you be...
Yeah. But I'll get like guys on TikTok or Instagram all the time being like, oh, there's no way I can charge $400 in my area. 120 is the going rate. Going rate means nothing. Like it literally means nothing. Like
it's arbitrary.
Going rate means there's people in your area charging 120. It's like, so freaking what?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they're charging.
Yeah.
Are they profitable? Are they making money? How are they making money? You didn't even know. You like, instead of focusing on what they're charging, you need to focus on what do I need to be charging in order to be profitable, right? And then the best thing to do is above and beyond that, it's like, what do I need to charge to be profitable? And what do I need to charge to be able to market to my customer effectively and get the work that I need to get? And that's how you're going to make money, right?
Yes.
Those guys might not be doing any marketing. There might be a bunch of one truck chucks that people just hire because they're cheap, right? I always say you can't run a business off word of mouth. Well, the reason I say that is because the guys who are running off of word of mouth, they typically don't have a business.
Right.
They have a job.
Yes.
And word of mouth works for them because they're cheap. And so people recommend them because they're like, dude, I hired the plumber the other day. It was $500. And they're like, oh, dude, I got this guy. He's cheap. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Call this guy.
But here, it's always this. I got this guy, he's cheap and he does good work.
Yeah.
Because within the plumbing community, there is a high appreciation for quality work, but
Yeah.
then there is a low acknowledgement of it costs a lot of money to deliver quality work.
Yeah.
And so the customer is like, dude, we got a steal here, which is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And the customer doesn't know. Like,
customer
that's just 'cause it's
doesn't-
what they got. That's like what everybody's charging, so that's what it's supposed to be in their mind.
The customer doesn't understand what it costs to run a plumbing business, what it costs you to send that person out to their house. So there's a guy in our coaching program. He's been in the plumbing business around the service industry for 30 plus years, right? And he always tells me, he said 33 years ago, we were charging $200 an hour. 33 years ago.
That's crazy.
Right?
Things were cheap back then.
And they were like, that was the rate that the company he worked for was charging, right? I mean, when he first got into our course, I think he was still charging like $250 an hour. And he'd been in business for 10 years. Super cool guy. He just didn't quite, like, it just didn't click in his head for some reason.
Well, because if you look around and your environment is saying this is acceptable, and you say, all right, well, if everybody says it's cool, who am I to say it's not cool? But even if you like smell a canary in the coal mine, you're like, I'll just ignore it. We'll just keep on keeping on.
Yeah. So if it was like 30 years ago, if you were to charge $200 an hour and that's what it took you to make a profit and cover your expenses, things have not gotten cheaper.
Yeah.
I think 30 years ago, you could buy a new pickup truck for $15,000.
Yeah.
Now what are they? 60 or 80?
Yeah. It depends on the options.
Yeah. I guarantee you my general comp insurance, my workers' comp insurance, and my general liability is probably 10 times what it was back then, right? Because people didn't make as much money as they make now. So we've stuck with this like old price for so incredibly long. And really all the people who aren't charging enough, they're bringing the whole trade down. The value perception from the customer standpoint, the reason they don't value a plumber's time enough, because most people are undercharging, and it's bringing the value of what we do down. So the more people and the more businesses we can get actually charging what we're worth, it's going to raise the value of all of us, right? It's going to raise the perception of the customer of like, oh, plumbers are expensive. They're also going to go, plumbers make good money. I want to go be a plumber.
Right.
Which is going to increase the amount of plumbers that we have, right?
Yeah. Because it's not the type of work that keep people out of the plumbing trade. It's the type of work plus the low pay.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, well, if I knew that this path,
people are going to push back on this. They're going to be like, sure, I make $100,000 a year.
It's like, okay.
It's like, cool. Good.
Yeah, good.
Why not make 150?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
And again, if you go look at like average pay for a plumber, service plumber, it's like $50,000 a year. I know like here where we're at in Florida, they don't make hardly beans.
Right.
And to me, it's not that much cheaper to live here than it is in Alaska.
No,
right?
I don't think so. You got different stuff.
Yeah, it's just different expenses. It's a little bit cheaper, but not much. Like my plumbers are making 140. Down here, they're making 50.
Right.
There's not a $90,000 decrease in
Definitely
living
not.
expenses,
if
right?
If there was, I would be like, wow, it's great down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like groceries are still like $400 a week. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, did we answer Homeboy's question?
Yeah. And I think like it seemed to me that he was going to have trouble selling at that hour. Right.
Yeah.
Like just whatever, because he'll get the calculator, he'll run it, and he'll see where he needs to be. But I think there's just, again, a lack of confidence in selling at that hour.
Yeah.
Because again, when you look around and your perception is nobody is doing this.
Yep.
How am I going to actually confidently do this?
There's companies, I guarantee you, I don't know where he's at, but I guarantee you there's a company in his area, or if he's super rural, there may be a company like in the next city over that's charging more than $400 an hour. I guarantee it. Well,
because ultimately, again, price is an objective part of your business.
Yeah.
There's nothing about it that's like feeling based or market based. It's like, nah, if you want to do this, you can make money charging this much. The other option is you can charge less, but you're just not going to make money and you're not going to get out of the valley of despair.
Yeah. And really what it is so when you start a business, a plumbing business, right, you take on these expenses to start this business. And you only take on expenses that allow you to bring value to the customer. So that allow you to serve the customer. So like you buy vans, you buy tools, you hire guys, you do marketing, because all of those things allow you to go serve the customer, right? So your expenses are a direct representation. They're like a dollar amount of what it costs you to provide that value, right? And so you need to cover that, obviously, but nobody's going to be able to come in and provide that value for any cheaper.
Yeah, because they got to buy the same stuff
They got to go buy the exact same stuff, right? So if anybody wants to come in and provide the value that you're offering, they're going to have to be as expensive of you.
Yeah, and that's why it's objective, because there's no fluff in there.
There is no fluff. If you want to provide the value, you have to charge the money. It's just how it is. Or you don't have a business. Right?
Or you're not bringing the value because you're skimping on things like, well, I buy old vehicles, or I make my guys buy their own tools, or they work out of their own trucks. All these things that then make your company look less reliable to the customer.
Yep. It lowers your perceived value.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you had a conversation today with your brother.
Yeah.
And we sort of touched on that just very barely.
Yeah.
What did you guys talk about?
So, my brother owns a marketing company, and so he gets
Bless his heart.
Bless his heart, dude. That's the worst business to be in.
Yeah.
It really is.
You really have to have a passion for like that kind of thing.
You do. Like dealing with so like plumbers are brutal on their marketing companies. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Because they hire one, they're like, this guy freaking sucks, and they split. And really, it's not the marketing company that sucks, it's the business owner, right? Yes, there's some marketing companies I'm sure that actually do suck.
Sure, of course.
But I think for the most part, it's a lack of understanding of what marketing is on the plumbers end, and it's a lack of like commitment to stick with something, and it's a lack of like just running their business properly on their end. Like if you have a crappy business and somebody sends you leads all day long, it's not going to fix your business, right? You still have a crappy business.
Right.
So you need to learn how to run a good business and then put leads in it. And if you're priced right, you will make money, right? And so the marketing companies get the short end of that stick,
right?
Because they're just bringing in people, and then they fail as a business, and so then they fire the marketing company and they go to the next one.
Again, because if we're spinning our wheels in the valley of despair, and we hire a marketing company to get us leads, but we never fix our pricing. It's not gonna.
So
it's not gonna get us out of there. Yeah.
Right.
And the marketing company be like, dude, it's $500 a lead, and you're like, that's insane. This guy's crazy.
Right. And so I was talking with my brother, and he's like, man, I'm having these consultations with these guys, right? And they're coming in, and I don't know when to tell them to hire me. And I was like, okay. So the first conversation was like, these guys, I can do marketing for them, but then a lot of times they don't answer their phone, or they after hours are turning their phones off, and it's going to voicemail. Should they hire a answering service to answer their phones after hours?
Oh, because he's saying that the calls
because he's sending them leads.
He's still sending them leads after hours.
Hours. They're just letting them go to voicemail, and they're losing them, right? And I told him my answer for that was like, no, they shouldn't hire an answering service because they likely don't have a CRM for that answering service to book calls in, right? Yeah. So they got to have some way to book a call. Like the one we work with only works with Service Titan.
Yeah.
So you would have to be on Service Titan in order to take advantage of the after hours phone service. But if they're getting like 1 to 2 book calls a day, I was like, they should just hire a CSR, because a CSR, number one, will be able to answer calls all day long.
Right.
So they'll be able to, during business hours, be able to soak up a lot of the leads that you're sending them, take advantage of those leads, book them into jobs. And then also it would make them seem way more professional, right? Raise their perceived value. The customer would automatically, because somebody else was answering the phone that sounded like they worked in an office, was answering the phone and getting them on the schedule, the perceived value of the company goes up. Also, if that CSR then makes a really professional voicemail recording for a homeowner to call a company and get a voicemail recording after hours is acceptable in their mind, right? And if they can wait to have the work done, they'll leave a voicemail and expect a call back.
Right.
And if you call them back in a timely manner, like first thing in the morning,
Oh, yeah.
then they're not going to have any problem doing business with you.
No, because that's normal.
Right. So you will lose less leads that way just by having a nice voicemail and actually calling people back. So that would be,
Wait,
like,
what?
wow. So that would be like a better like situation for that. Right. And then he's like, okay, well, so when should they hire me to do their marketing? Right. He's like, I'm having a hard time because I'm getting these guys in and they're in their one truck chuck. They need more work, but my fee is thousands of dollars a month. So, and I feel bad asking them to pay me and they have a hard time paying me. So when should that transaction happen? And I told him flat out, I was like, it should happen like they start their business day 1, day 2, they hire a marketing company, right? Yeah. Or day 1, they start their business, day 2, this is day 2 and this is day 1 for some reason.
Yeah, this one.
Day 2, right?
Yeah.
Day 2, they get their pricing right.
Yeah.
Day 3, they go hire a marketing company.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I was to do it all over again, I would go, I mean, this is kind of what I did. I already had the credit card, but I would go get a 0% interest for your credit card and go hire a marketing company. Yep. And I'd put that marketing.
That's free money right there, dude.
It's free money. I'd go put that marketing on that credit card until I was making enough money to where I could pay it off. Because if you don't have marketing, you don't have a customer. And if you don't have a customer to serve, you can't go make any money. It's like one of the foundations of your business.
Huge
right?
foundation.
Huge. And so, and from the person who's in those shoes, like, it's okay, I want to have a successful plumbing business. Right. What are the steps I need to take? Let's say I want to get to 3 guys. I want to pull out of the van and I want to be in the office. What are the steps I need to take? I need to hire 3 guys. I need to hire CSR. I need 4 vans. I need Service Titan. I need to make sure I'm priced right.
Yep.
So now let's break those steps down into actionable steps.
We just have our big goals and then we have our actionable steps.
Let's get a plan, right?
Throw it on our Google Calendar.
Let's get a plan. Okay. Day 1, I need a business license and the stuff to start a business. Right. Done. Day 2, I need to know that if I go to somebody's house, I can actually make money. So let's download my pricing calculator and get that figured out. If I haven't, I'll just charge $400 an hour. It'll be good enough for that guy at that point in time. Day number 3, man, now I need customers, right? Or maybe day number 3, I need a van and tools so that I can actually go service the customer. Right. I need my minimum viable product is what we would call that. So go get a van, go get the tools, maybe put a little bit of stock in it. I probably wouldn't even do that. Day 4, marketing.
Yeah.
So I would go
like legit too. Not like weenie, like
no.
fake marketing.
Nope.
Like the expensive kind that you're going to stick with for a long time. Like your brother's company that's legit and does plumbing business and can do all the things.
Yep. Go get a credit card and be willing to spend good money on marketing.
And that does a couple of things because 1, it's going to actually allow you to have that marketing in place when you need it.
Yep.
When you actually need to put cash into it and see a result.
Yep.
And then 2, it's going to put your back right up against that wall.
Yep.
It's going to create this need in you to actually go out and do the stuff.
And we're assuming like this person doesn't have any money. Obviously, if you have money, you can just hire a marketing company and use your cash.
Yeah, sure.
Like ideally, everybody would have some cash reserves. But I mean, that's not everybody's case. Right. Like me, when I started my business, I had 2 kids, a wife, we had a home, we had a car, we had food. I didn't make a ton of money to put away cash as a plumber, right? So I put it on a credit card. I had some cash. I didn't want to spend it all. So I put it on a credit card and then paid it off. And I ended up paying it off in the first month. Yeah. So it wasn't that big of a deal.
But you were hungry too. Like you would go out there and you would get after it.
Oh yeah. I was hungry. So they need to be hiring a marketing company like pronto, right? Yeah. So if you, and the thing is they need to be willing to spend money on a lead. So part of the thing with my brother is he'll get calls and he'll do a market analysis for you, which is totally free if anybody needs it. It's super valuable. You can go to mammothforplumbers.com, get a free market analysis, get the information you need, whether you buy or not. I would highly recommend it. I'm not paid by him. I don't get anything for that. I just know it's a valuable service.
Yep. He just gets a good thank you card at Christmas.
Yeah, with $1 million in it.
Yeah,
No, just kidding.
no big deal.
Just kidding.
Yeah, your brother only wishes.
Yeah.
He'd give you a gift like that.
Well, I wish he'd give me a gift like that. That'd be rad. So, you know, he'll do a market analysis and he can tell you like how much it's going to cost for a lead from Google pay-per-click. And so he might come to you and be like, hey, okay, I did a market analysis on where you're at and where your plumbing business is at. You know, it's going to cost you $400 for a lead from pay-per-click. Are you prepared to pay that price for a lead? And a lot of the plumbing business owners are like, holy shit, no way. Like that $400 just to get a phone call.
Yeah.
And then I may or may not even book that call, number one.
Right.
And then when I do go to their house, like I'm only charging $120 an hour. Like, what if I just change their toilet flapper? I just lost $300, right?
Yeah. Obviously, marketing companies are a scam.
Yeah. And so, or it's just not worth it, right? Like pay-per-click's way too expensive.
Yeah, we'll
right?
go do something else.
Or, yeah, whatever. Gee, it's all too expensive. The reality is, like, number one, you're not priced right. But even if you are priced right, like even if you're charging $400 an hour and it's costing you $400 for a lead, and you're like a lot of guys start thinking, okay, so if I'm $400 an hour and I'm paying $400 for lead, even if I book that job and I go do it and sell the customer on work, if it's only an hour, I didn't make any money.
Yep.
Right. And so they're not. It's hard when you're in the beginning stages of your business. But what ends up happening is there's a few things that come into play there. Number one, if you're the most expensive in your area, which I would recommend, then you're going to be able to pay the most for a lead, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, sure.
And here's the thing. That Google lead is $400 for a reason. It's $400 because somebody else is willing to pay $399 for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That means that business is able to go make money even though they're paying $399 for a lead. How is that? Right? And how can you do that in your business? It's literally just by charging enough, right? So accounting for, like, it doesn't matter what, like if you go download our hourly rate calculator, right? And you put all your expenses in and you put a marketing budget for the year of $200,000, okay? It'll tell you on the bottom of our calculator how many hours you need to bill out every single day and every single week in order to cover all of your expenses and make a profit.
Right.
Okay. And it'll tell you what you need to charge per hour in order to cover all those expenses and a profit. Okay. So if you have that budget in your calculator, so it's worked into your hourly rate and you sell enough hours, right? Then you can spend as much as you have to on marketing. It's just a matter of charging the customer for what you're spending on marketing. So there really is no limit to what you can pay for a lead.
Right.
Right. So, so as long as you're billing out enough hours, you're going to cover your marketing spend. Okay. Here's the other thing. Some guys will go like this. They'll do all the stuff I just said. They'll fill out the calculator. They'll put the stuff in there and they'll be like, I'm not selling enough hours.
Right.
I'll be like, okay, so what do you need to do to sell more hours?
I got to get more work.
Yes. How do you get more work?
Get more marketing?
Yes. What does that take? Like, what are you going to have to do more marketing?
Spend more money?
You're going to have to spend more money. So you go into your calculator and you raise your budget on your marketing and then it raises your hourly rate. So you raise your hourly rate in your business. And now all of a sudden you start getting enough work to bill enough hours to cover all the stuff you spent on plus a profit margin, right?
And really the caveat with that, what you just said there, is assuming that you've had this marketing company long enough for it actually to work in this way.
Yeah, you got to give your marketing company like 90 days minimum.
Yeah, minimum 90 days.
Absolute minimum. And then the other thing to keep in mind is like marketing companies are afraid to spend your money.
Yes.
And so you as the plumber have to be very aggressive in spending your money. So they will go through and say, okay, how many leads do you need? And you'll say, oh man, if I could just get, this many a day, then I'd be good. And the marketing companies could say, okay, we can we think we can get you that many leads for this amount of money.
Right.
I would always say, okay, let's spend double. And I would go
Just
put
to
that in,
guarantee-
I would go,
Yeah, go put it in your hourly rate
I
calculator.
go put it in my budget, and I would go in and make sure that I'm charging enough to cover that. And if I get extra leads, perfect.
Yeah.
I'll go hire somebody,
Yeah.
right? The point is to get the leads.
Yeah,
The
because you're
person
trying to
who-
grow anyway.
Yeah, the person who spends the most gets the leads,
Yeah.
right?
And again, like that person who's spending the most is going to have the customer pay for it.
Yes.
And so,
Okay.
and also just like when you guys look at that hourly rate calculator, like
Yep.
when you put in your marketing budget,
Yeah.
like of $200,000, like
Yep.
how much do you think that raises the hourly rate to the customer?
It depends on how many service vehicles you have, right?
Sure.
The more service vehicles you have, the less it's going to raise the rate,
Right.
right?
What
Because
about with just 4 service vehicles?
well, it's going to raise over, no idea.
It's
a few
probably
bucks.
somewhere. It's probably somewhere between like if you go $200,000 in there. My guess is somewhere if we just go with the stock calculator, don't mess with anything. It's gonna be like $40 to $50 an hour.
If you go from 100 to 200 on your marketing spend, you're probably going to see like a $30 increase per
Yeah.
hour. So if your minimum is like, if you're already at 400, right? And you go to a job, typical job is 2 hours long, typical service call.
Mm-hmm.
And you instead bill the customer. So that'd be $800 bill
Mm-hmm.
versus a $860 bill
Mm-hmm.
to get way more customers,
Yes.
right? That's the difference.
Yes.
That's not going to make it or break it for the
No.
customer.
Mm-mm.
There's no freaking way.
So there's no there is no space for a pushback that says like, well, it's not right to charge the customer that much to this, that, and the other thing. It's like it's not. When you actually put it in your rate, it doesn't turn into this crazy amount. It's not like your hourly rate goes up by hundreds of dollars to
Right.
cover that marketing cost.
Exactly. So if you have a calculator, that's the cool thing about it is you can go in and you can see, oh, if I just spend more on marketing, it actually doesn't affect my hourly rate that much.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can actually get customers.
And it gives
right?
you the confidence to then go back to your marketing company and be like, no, it's okay.
I want to spend this much.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to the $400 lead, right?
Okay.
Because a lot of, here's another problem. Plumbers, for some reason, they get obsessed over ROI.
Well, it's probably what they're told to get.
They are.
That's how marketing companies pitch the idea of what they do is through the mechanism of return on investment.
Yep. And so a lot of plumbers want to know, okay, what's my ROI on my pay-per-click? What's my ROI on my GLSA? What's my ROI on my Facebook and Instagram ad spend? Mm-hmm. And if they don't see an ROI, they don't want to do it, right? And I have a major problem with that. Not that it's bad to know what your ROI is.
Sure, data is helpful.
Data is very helpful. It can tell you where to better spend your money. Mm-hmm. But I would measure my ROI as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the one that I'm really going to be concerned about. If I spend $500,000 total on all of my marketing, okay, my marketing as a whole, then I want to know that, okay, 500,000 and I got X amount of phone calls into my business. That means a lead cost me this much money, right? And it's like when I do that for my business, it's actually very cheap. I get really cheap leads, right? Because a lot of people call me from a lot of different sources.
Right.
Some of those sources are $500 a lead. Some of those sources are free. Some of those sources are $30 a lead. Some of them are $7 a lead. Most of them, we really, truly have no idea where they came from.
Yeah. You don't know what touch points triggered the transaction decision.
Yes. They may have called us through pay-per-click, but we don't know why they chose us over the other person.
Right.
Did they see our van? Did somebody tell them about us? Did they see our Facebook ads? Did they see our Instagram account? What did they see that made them hire us? Like, why did they choose us, right? We have no clue. No idea. And there's no way to track it. So there's really no true way to measure ROI on a specific lead source. The only ROI you can truly measure is this is what I spend on marketing. This is how many phone calls I get in my business. That is the only actual measurement that you can measure.
Yep. Gross marketing spend, gross phone calls.
And it doesn't matter if you're spending $500 for this lead source and $30 for this lead source and $1 for this lead source or whatever, right? It's the whole picture that counts.
Yeah.
The other thing is like for pay-per-click specifically because leads are more expensive. Like number one, don't think about it just as leads. Think about it as branding as well.
Yeah.
When somebody goes on Google and they search for a plumber and they see 2 plumbers, even if they don't choose you, they're still seeing your name.
Mm-hmm.
So that guy comes and does a piss poor job or doesn't answer his phone or whatever. Guess who they're calling? They're calling you.
Mm-hmm.
They might just go Google your name at that point, and now that lead isn't attributed to that pay-per-click campaign, right?
Yep.
So you can't measure it, and you need to measure the whole, right?
Yeah.
The whole system. So the other thing is, you have to think about lifetime. You need to think about lifetime value of your customer as well, which is, and I want to say lifetime gross profit of the customer. Lifetime gross profit value, we'll call it.
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
So how much gross profit are you going to make off that customer in the lifetime of the customer? If you're new in business, you have no idea.
Yep.
Right. If you put good systems in place to retain your customers for a long time, so you actually go do a good job, you provide a membership plan where they can become a member with you, you put in these systems to be able to retain customers, then your lifetime gross profit is going to go up. So essentially that customer is going to use you more often without you having to pay for them as a new customer, right? So when you're thinking about getting a lead from Google for $500, your lifetime gross profit on that customer might be thousands of dollars, right? In which case it makes a lot of sense to acquire that customer, even if I don't make money off that first transaction. Even if I just break even on that first transaction, it makes a lot of sense to grab that customer, right? And then make money on them over time. And that's the stuff that like people aren't willing to do. And it's when you can do the things that people aren't willing to do, that's what's going to make you successful.
Yes.
Right? Because most people aren't willing to do them.
Yes.
And so if you do, and you figure out how to make money at them by retaining the customer longer, that's how you're going to make money. That's how you're going to win over your competition.
What about, where does like an average ticket come into this conversation?
I mean, you can think about average ticket as well. Like, so our average ticket is $2,950. So the reason I like the gross lifetime profit is that it gives you a better idea. Like average ticket includes materials, right? So it's a revenue number again where
there's some nuances in there that that you can't just look at and understand by seeing the number.
Yeah, and I can say, okay, so average ticket's $2,950.
Yeah.
You know, we hit 25% profit margins. That means 25% of that is profit.
Yeah.
Just hands down. Yeah. Or you can think of it like this. Average ticket is $2,950. I paid $500 for a lead. 25% of this $2,950 is probably materials. I'm still in the green. Yeah. I still made money on the call, right?
Yeah, but you have to do a couple jumps to get there, right?
Yeah, and you can think about, I mean, like when you're thinking about paying $500 for lead, you can say, okay, what can I do to maximize my average ticket in my business? Like how can I maximize, like when I get that customer the first time, rather than going there and just replacing the flapper, how can I maximize that opportunity so that I make as much money on that first call as I possibly can?
Yeah.
Those are all good things to do.
Yeah.
Offer them options, offer them long-term fixes, get to the root of the problem. Don't just fix the symptom, right? Those are all ways that you can maximize every single call. Those aren't easy things to do, but you can systemize them in your business, and you should. And those are the things that, again, most people aren't willing to do. And if you can do them, then you can afford to pay the $500 for the lead, and then you can basically kill your competition because you're doing your business better. Right.
It seems to be that instead of looking at when you get the marketing analysis and they're like, oh yeah, it's $500 for pay-per-click to get a lead in this area, you don't go, oh, that's too much. You go, okay, well, I have to figure out how to acquire that cost.
Yes. Rather than looking at it and saying, that's too much.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. That would be dumb. You need to look at it and go, cool, it's $500 to get a new customer. What do I got to do in my business to make money at that?
Yeah.
how do I make money paying $500 for a customer?
Yeah, because it's like you have to.
Everybody's paying $500 for
Yeah.
a pay-per-click customer.
Yeah, it's like you have to.
Everybody.
So you can there's a solution to this problem.
Yep. And the solution is raise your prices to cover the cost of pay-per-click in your business.
Yeah.
And then make sure you're optimizing the first call. And then make sure you're getting more calls after the first call.
Yeah.
Right? So retain those customers as long as possible. And that's any business.
Yes.
That's just normal business.
Yes.
Every single business.
Sure. Yeah. We're not talking about like crazy concepts that are unique to the plumbing world or anything like that.
Yeah. It's nothing special. This is just normal business concepts that every normal business deals with. And the reason it's so weird for plumbers is because we're not business guys. We're plumbers, right? We started out turning wrenches, putting hangers up and putting pipe in it, right?
Amen, brother. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
And telling really bad stories at break time.
Yeah, which are really funny stories in retrospect.
Yeah, about how cool we are.
Yeah, dang, man.
Yeah.
How strong our legs are.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and so the only reason they're weird concepts to plumbers and it's weird to like apply them to plumbing business is just because we're not business people.
Yeah.
But if you want to have a successful business, you need to become a businessman, right? You need to become a successful CEO. You need to understand business concepts, how they apply to the plumbing world. I guarantee if you call around, you find the most expensive plumbing company in town, and you went and talked to the owner or the CEO of that company, he would tell you all of these things. He would be a very good businessman, right? He would understand marketing spend, how much he has to charge the customer. He would know his average ticket. He would know his lifetime gross profit value, right? He would understand all of these things. And so you just have to start understanding that stuff.
Yep.
It's just how it is.
How did that conversation with your brother end? Like, where did you guys get to in that conversation?
It was good. He got a better understanding of like where guys are at, because it's hard for him because he doesn't want to push guys into buying his service.
Sure.
And I kind of ended in like, hey man, if you really cared about their success, you would push them to buy your most expensive package.
Right.
Because that's the one where they're going to get the most results. Yeah. So if you have somebody that wants to be successful, then you have a duty to push them to buy your best service, right? And like if he's underpriced, he's not going to be able to provide the value to the plumber, right? So like, you know the old saying, you get what you pay for?
Yeah.
It's been more true than not in my life. Like it's been true more times than not, because when you pay for something that's expensive, that person now has the resources to be able to fulfill on what you want them to fulfill on.
Yeah.
Right. And when something goes wrong, they now have the resources to fix it. And when they need to go to the extra mile to get you better results, they now have the resources to be able to do that because you paid them more. So for like plumbers listening to this, when you're going to hire a marketing company, go hire a damn good marketing company.
Yeah.
Right. And pay them good money, because it will be worth its weight in gold, because they will have the resources to fulfill on what they need to fulfill on, which is jobs for your plumbing company, which if you're priced right is lots of money.
Right.
It's like the box. You put money in the marketing box. The marketing box spits out phone calls and form fills on your website. And as long as you build the ability to take those phone calls and form fills and turn them into booked jobs, and then have the ability to turn that booked job into a paid job and have the ability to make a profit on those paid job, that turns that marketing box into a money printing machine, right? And so to hire a cheap money printing machine would be a bad idea.
It's going to print off some weird looking money.
Yeah, it's going to be dumb. I would want to hire a really good money printing machine, right? Because I want to get lots of phone calls and lots of form fills so that I can make as much money as possible. That's how I think about it.
Cool, man. Cool. Geez. I think that pretty much covers it, don't it?
Probably.
Cool, dude. Well, like I said, The calculator's in the link on YouTube below.
Yep.
Sometimes I get this like when I'm looking through all the conversations that we get where guys are like, I've got hundreds of these calculators.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, we use this calculator.
Yeah.
Like, Jared, you use this exact same calculator.
I use it
This isn't just something for us to get your information so we can send you more emails.
Nope.
Like, this is actually a tool we expect you to use.
Yep.
Because it's actually helpful.
It's actually usable.
So like if you put that into your business and you incorporate it, like you will actually do better in your business just because you have a better tool.
If you don't have something like it, you are not going to be able to be successful.
And if you're skeptical that it doesn't work, you have to ask yourself the questions, am I misusing the tool, which you can watch the video, especially when Jared updates it and make sure you're using it correctly, or are you just disagreeing with the results of the tool?
Yeah.
Like, are you disagreeing with the price? Or you're disagreeing with all these things, and so you're not willing to make the steps.
Yep.
And then I would say just like continue to listen to this podcast because we can help dismantle all those limiting beliefs that hold you back from charging what you need to be successful.
Yep.
Cool, dude.
Cool, man.
Hit the table.
See you, Holmes.